children of the night. What music they make.
They're all gonna laugh at you!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What's up?
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash you a bit.
Welcome back to Final Guys, the horror podcast that rock and rolls all night, but is getting a little too old to party every day. I'm your host, Jack, and with me is my partner in crime, author Jason Brant.
My problem is if I party all night or do anything all night, the next day I just sleep and feel like shit.
I pop Advil, hopefully, and hydrate.
Right. That's pretty much it.
You may notice we're a man down. I use the word man in quotation marks, man-child, more like it. Our
God.
pal Hunter Shea, yes, our pal Hunter Shea is off on assignment, and we'll be back in the near future, and we wish him well in the great beyond.
I think we're fortunate this week we don't have him. Who knows? He would say something stupid about this movie that would just piss me off, so we're better off.
Actually, this is a movie that I would love to hear his thought on because he probably knows way more about this movie than I do. So tonight, what we're going to do is, besides our news and our video picks for the week, we're going to do a deep dive into the original Hellraiser, the Clive Barker classic, because there was no real new releases this week. So we decided to pick an old favorite, and so that's what we're going to do. So, do you have the drinking game rules part given to us by our pals in the live chat room, the cult?
I do. Sheridan just posted them, and for you, they are Universal, Barker, and Chains. And for me, they are Frank, Practical, and Skin. And the bonus words are Hunter, Attic, and Cenobite. So, we'll have a nice turnout this week as well, probably. For the two people doing the game.
If somebody's a hunter addict, somebody should just put them out of their misery.
I think it's attic, as in the top of your house.
Okay. Never mind.
Nobody's an addict to that idiot. It's impossible. Before you do jump into it, though, I just want to say again, we got a bunch more reviews over the weekend, and they're all up on the site, I think, except for one. So, again, I really appreciate you guys sending all this stuff in, and we'll just keep it going. You'll see how much we can get on there. So
it's a very eclectic, maybe that's not the right word, but interesting selection of movies. We've got people of all different tastes reviewing movies. So if you're looking for something to watch on any given night, I think this is a good place to go because it's kind of stuff you've heard of and stuff you haven't heard of, and the weird crap that this guy Steve Barnard likes to write about.
He hears about movies I've never heard of and posts reviews of them. And to be honest, they're usually the most popular stuff on the site.
The man puts his work in. I'll give him that.
He does. He's killing it. Sheridan's been putting stuff up. Everybody, Team Meyer, we've been getting a bunch, so I appreciate it. So keep them coming, guys.
Awesome. Well, I thought I would start off the news with some Clive Barker news, since he is the author of tonight's main feature.
Uh-oh. His health has been so poor, it always makes me nervous when I see his name pop up.
No. As far as I know, he's alive. You ever see the movie Nightbreed?
I have. Some crazy shit in that movie.
Is that, like, I've always heard something about the frustration in that movie could have been more than it was.
Yeah.
And I know there's a director's cut. I saw it like when it first came out, so I get vague recollections of it. It's sort of on my to-do list. Well, Sci-Fi is creating a TV series based on it, and Barker is involved, along with the writer Josh Stolberg, who did Jigsaw and Piranha.
Okay.
I don't know when it's coming out, but the fact that Barker's attached to it, maybe he can do something closer. With Sci-Fi, you're going to be a little bit handcuffed. He's more, I think, Clive Barker should really be on like Cinemax.
Yeah. I would love. I mean, he hasn't done anything since Lord of Illusions. Was that his last movie he directed? which is insane. I mean, even the ones that didn't completely work, which a lot of people don't care for Lord of Illusions, but I actually really like the movie, particularly if you get the director's cut. Nightbreed, some really amazing stuff in it, but I don't know if it was chopped up too much. I can't remember anymore. It's been too long. But even his stuff that doesn't work, there was always something different about it, something with the aesthetic or the violence or the story or whatever it was that always drew me to his work. And the fact that he hasn't done anything in so long is depressing. I'd love if he could maybe get $5 million from Blumhouse and just do whatever in the hell he wanted. That'd be great.
I'm curious. Like I said, I think it's the director's cut is on Netflix, so it's on my to-do list. So in the next few weeks, I'll check that out.
Jamie in the chat just said the director's cut is on Shudder.
Oh, Shudder. Okay, great.
Yeah, I need to check that out. I watched Lord of Illusions maybe 2 years ago again. That movie's nuts, man. I really like it.
That's one I saw that when it came out, and I don't remember being overwhelmed by it. But it's always one of those ones that I kind of wish I would go back and watch again.
Really violent, like shockingly violent at times.
That's Scott Bakula, right?
Oh yeah, my man. I love that guy.
Okay, one of the scariest scenes in a movie, or unnerving, especially if you're a kid. You ever see the movie The Witches?
I can't say that I have. It's not ringing a bell.
Angelica Houston is like the main witch. They turn this kid into a mouse. It's a Ronald Dahl book that was turned into a movie. Oh my God! If you've never seen The Witches, you got to watch The Witches.
I don't think I have.
So there's a scene in this movie at the beginning where the like women who are like everyday women go into like a ballroom, and then they pull off their faces and they're all like ugly witches and stuff, and they eat like children or something like that. So there is a scene in that movie where this kid's up in a tree and this woman comes to the bottom of the tree and is telling him to come down, and she's got like purple glowing eyes. It's not quite on the level of the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but it's a creepy ass woman. And whenever I think of The Witches, the famous scene of The Witches is kids hiding in a ballroom and all the witches unmask and he's like trapped there. It's a fun movie. Well, it turns out they're doing a remake of this movie. Guillermo del Toro was going to direct it, but he's not going to. He's going to produce it, and Robert Zemeckis is going to direct it.
Robert Zemeckis, really?
Yes.
Oh, now you have my interest.
Yeah, so he's Forrest Gump, Roger Rabbit. He did some Tales from the Crypt.
What was the one he did with What Lies Beneath? That was Zemeckis, wasn't
was that? Yeah, you're right. Here it is. Castaway. Death Becomes Her.
Tiny little movie that Back to the Future thing.
Back to the Future.
The greatest movie of all time.
And you've got Del Toro, who, if you watch The Witches, Del Toro was made to remake The Witches. And this is a Ronald Dahl thing. So you've got that whole sick-ass Willy Wonka's creepy factor to begin with.
I just looked that movie up, and as soon as I saw the images from it, it clicked. I just didn't know that was the name of it. Man, I haven't seen that thing since the 90s, but I remember loving that movie.
Yeah, I think this is a good one to remake because I think it'll get people to go back and watch the original one. And this is a perfect example of something that it's beloved, but it's also sort of forgotten by a lot of people.
Right.
So with good firepower like this behind it, I think that's awesome.
Hell yeah. Bring it on. Man, you just jogged something in my mind that was crazy. Oh, I haven't thought of that movie in forever. I must have seen it on HBO way, way, way back.
It'll be really interesting to see who gets the Angelica Houston part. This is like, what's her name? Angelina Jolie, when she did the Disney movie, what, the Maleficent? How do you say that?
Yeah, Maleficent.
Like, she would have been like somebody pegged for this, but I think like she sort of passed we put her in everything stage. But who knows?
Yeah, actually, I haven't seen her in much lately, now that I think about it. All right, yeah, I'm interested. Bring it on.
So that'll be fun. The next piece of news is just for you.
Oh, all right.
Joe
Bob?
It is. So for the weekend of Friday the 13th in July, Shudder will be presenting The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs 24-hour horror movie marathon.
Oh, hell yeah. 13 movies.
Now, part of the reason I'm bringing this up is they gave a teaser for 3 of the movies that are going to be featured. Tourist Trap, which I talked about a few weeks ago, which is awesome. Sleepaway Camp,
Very
which
nice.
should be a featured movies of ours. It's just a matter of time.
For the ending alone.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie's fine, but that ending is just so bonkers.
Yeah. And then Basket Case.
Another one.
Which
If those are the 3 they're announcing, what the hell are they not announcing?
I'm looking forward to. I hope they publish a list, because there's no way I'm going to watch 24 hours, but I may. You'll know what's on Shudder, so if you miss them, you can go back and watch them, because I trust his judgment. So he's probably got some stuff in there that I've never heard of.
I'm curious to see what they do when the stream is over. Are they going to take the movie and then put it on Shudder so you can watch it with his commentary later? Because if not, I'm not going to stay up 24 hours. I mean, I've been waiting for this for 15 years or whatever the hell it's been. But,
well, the other thing is, for me, Shudder is just a list of movies.
Right.
And I click on one, so I don't even know how the heck you watch this.
So I did see, if you have subscribed through Amazon as a channel, you cannot see this. You have
That's
to
how
have.
I did it.
That's how I did it too. So you have to do it through their app, and then in their app you can see their live feed.
So my membership should be valid in the app. I just have to.
I don't think so. I think you have to pay them directly. But he did post a code. You know what? I'll put it on the site or something, or in the show notes here, that you can get 7 days free of through their app, through their website. So that's probably what I'll do, is just do that. That because I don't want to cancel my subscription at Amazon, open it with Shudder, and then I don't know. So I'll use that and definitely check it out. I don't know. Maybe the app's better. I've never used it, so
I don't know. The way it is for me now works. So if it's between Joe Bob and just leaving things the way they are, I'll just look for the list later and look for the movies.
Yeah, I don't know how 24 hours is crazy, man. That's a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Last piece of news is awesome. I think we talked about Jason Goes to Hell. I saw it.
Yeah, that was a
few
couple
months
weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, the director Adam Marcus is developing a spin-off about Creighton Duke, which is the bounty hunter dude.
Yeah, okay.
Which is freaking awesome. And he's talked to the actor who played him, which I have here somewhere. They were saying that if there's any issue with rights, he could easily just make it about Creighton Duke, but never reference Friday the 13th.
Sure.
And just, I'm like, whatever you do, put that guy in a movie, make it an alternate universe. Forget about it. Just make him the monster hunter guy, because that guy was so funny.
So is he just working on the script, or is this a go somehow? I mean, how far along is this? Did it say? It's such a random thing to come up. I mean, that movie came out a long time ago.
I know. He just says he's working on a spinoff.
Huh. I think there's a weird issue with the Friday the 13th stuff too, isn't there, with the rights? I think there was, because they kept trying to either relaunch it or do a sequel to the last one, and they couldn't get it going in time. I don't know, some weird shit.
Yeah, so that they're saying if he doesn't reference the Friday the 13th franchise, he could probably pull it off. I don't know. I would just get a kick out of them trying it. I don't know how good or bad it would be, but I just remember when I watched Jason Go to Hell, I forgot all about that guy. And I'm like, oh, that's right. They were like introducing this whole like bounty hunter Van Helsing kind of guy. And,
I'm not even remembering too much of it. It's been a long time.
He was like the guy who was an expert on Jason. And when they blew him up, he's like, nope, you haven't. You think you did it, but you didn't. Like,
okay. When they at the beginning when they blew him up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he wore like a trench coat and a cowboy hat. It's awesome.
I wonder what in the hell made him think to try and do a spin-off of that. That's random.
because you're sitting there trying to think of what the hell else can we do.
He's got to get a movie going. He needs something.
Then they look at the Marvel universe and they're like, well, they didn't have any other A players, so they dug deep and turned, their B and C roster into superstars. Can Creighton Duke be our Ant-Man? I don't know.
It'd be nice. I mean, we haven't had Friday the 13th, and when did the last one come out? 09 maybe? 10?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
That's been too long for one of those. Bring it on. I like it.
Bring it on. So that is all the news that is fit to print. Oh, wait a minute. Scoop had put something in the Facebook page that the Universal Monster movies are finally going to be, all of them are going to be released in a Blu-ray box set.
Okay. About time. It's been forever.
Yeah. I don't know. Would you get that?
No. I'm sure that's going to be an incredible amount of money. And when it comes to older movies, I have to be in the right mood to go back and sit and enjoy it. So I probably wouldn't spend that much money on it. But
that's one of those things that I'd like to get as a gift, but probably wouldn't go out and buy. The box set I'm waiting for is the Hammer movies. There's no like box set. There's a few. There's a lot of DVDs you can buy, and there's some Blu-rays. But if they put out like a definitive Hammer horror with some behind-the-scenes stuff, I'd go for that.
Did you see any of those in HD? I'm assuming they might be able to do some really nice transfers with those. Get some nice picture quality.
I've only seen Hammer on DVD, and I don't know how much
right
restoration or anything.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of them. I'll have to check it out. Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, all right. So, girl, let's go to what we saw. What we watched.
We have such sights to show you.
All right. I've been yapping a lot. So why don't you go first and tell us what you watched this week and if there's anything we ought to check out.
Okay. I forgot to bring up my list, so I'm going to do this quickly off memory. Okay. First was Rampage, the new one with The Rock. Did you see it?
No, we were talking about it at the office today. Somebody said, it just came out. And I said, when it's free on Netflix, I'll watch it. But
that's what I would wait for. So watching it at the beginning, I'm thinking, hey, this isn't that bad. Some of The Rock stuff, did you see, was it in San Andreas or whatever? Oh,
yeah.
It's just terrible stuff. But I'm watching this thinking, this isn't bad. And then just the rails, it just went off the rails. It was so ridiculous that at one point my wife had said, this is like something a kid would think up. Just, we have to have the dinosaur, and then it's going to be an alligator. It's going to be like a dinosaur with tusks. And then the wolf is going to fly. And then it's going to shoot quills. And then the Rock is going to get in a helicopter, and he's going to do this. It's so utterly ridiculous that I think if you went into it looking at it as a kid's movie, like something you would actually take your children to, because it's mostly bloodless, it's, you don't really see much, I think it wouldn't be bad. If you had a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, whatever you wanted to take to the movies, this would probably be a decent one to go to. But to just sit and watch it as an adult, it was not my bag. I'll put it that way. It was even so, the villains were just, they are bad guys. Bad guys want people to die. Bad guys want money. That was it. That was their whole motivation.
So Jeffrey Dean Morgan seemed like he was just doing Negan.
I am a giant Jeffrey Dean Morgan fan, but his character was the worst. It was so bad. He plays a federal agent who just has a silver pistol tucked in his waistband all the time and just does whatever he wants. Fully autonomous. Just utterly ridiculous. Again, go into it as a kid's movie. Maybe you'll enjoy it more. Definitely not my thing. Don't pay money for it. Then I watched When a Stranger Calls Back.
Ah.
Did you ever see this? I'd never seen it.
I feel like I saw it, but it was like everybody was hanging out, and then late night, let's watch a movie, pop that in, and I don't know if anybody stayed awake for the whole thing.
So I like the first one, When a Stranger Calls, 79, I think that came out. But in actuality, I like the beginning. The first 20 minutes are some of the best 20 minutes you're going to see in a horror movie. It's intense. It's great. It's a complete and utter ripoff of Black Christmas, but whatever. It's great. I love it. The end is decent too, but the middle is... It's not one of my favorite horror movies. It's good. It's not great. So I don't know if I didn't know there was a sequel to this or if I saw it and just didn't care, but apparently this was made in 1993 by Showtime. It was one of the early, Showtime, HBO made movies. So I just had never bothered. And I heard a recommendation on, I think it was Shockwaves, maybe? It's on Prime, so you can watch it for free. So I thought, oh, what the hell? This was really damn good. I might like it better than the original. At least as a whole, it's more enjoyable. The first 20 minutes are really hard to beat from the original, but first 20 minutes of this were pretty damn good too. I really enjoyed it. And it felt like this maintained the quality of the beginning throughout the movie better than the first one did. So it's a continuation of the story. There's a new story involved, but Carol Kane is in it. I don't remember the detective guy. I can't think of the actor's name.
Charles Durning?
That might have been it. He's in it. They're playing the same characters, and their involvement is it's really well done. This is a good movie. Anybody's got Prime, check out When a Stranger Calls Back.
Do you need to watch the first one first, or do they kind of bring you up to speed?
It would help. But honestly, you could just look on Wikipedia and see, because Carol Kane is a kind of a secondary character. She's got a biggish role in it, but she's not the main character. But it doesn't even reference what happened to her a whole hell of a lot. So if you just kind of looked up what happened to her in the first one, you could piece it together. So really solid movie.
Cool. I haven't thought about that one in a while.
I was surprised. I expected that to be a complete piece of crap, and I dug the hell out of it. Let's see. Then I watched... Someone in the Final Guys Facebook group mentioned Anonymous 616. I think it was Ben Sperling? I don't remember. That's also free on Prime. And Amazon has been recommending this movie to me for months, but the cover just didn't grab me for whatever reason, and apparently I'm one of those idiots who buys books and movies based on their cover. So he said it was pretty good, so I sat and checked it out, and this is one of those movies that I'm torn on. Kind of like, what was the one Steve Barnard reviewed? It's a new slasher, with the clown, with Art the Clown. Why can't I think of the name of it?
Oh, Terrifier.
Terrifier. This, to me, kind of hit me as Terrifier. It's well made. It's got solid performances. It just didn't grip me, and it's primarily because what you see in the beginning scene, unless you don't watch any movies and you can never figure anything out, you know exactly what happened right away from the beginning. So to me, there wasn't much suspense for what was going to happen. I could already tell. It was just it wasn't a matter of what happened, it's a matter of why, basically what the movie is. So it's fine. Again, good performances, well made. The storytelling didn't quite work for me, and this is a nasty movie. Not gory, but just, it's one of those movies where there's just no hope, because at the beginning you just know what's going to happen, and it's just a mean little movie. But I will summarize it as a DMT trip gone bad. There you go. So that's Anonymous 616. Some people might enjoy it a lot more than me. If that's kind of your thing, then I could see people recommending this a lot more. And it's not even that I hated it. It's just, when I can tell what's going to happen in the first 5 minutes, it's like the prequel thing with me. I don't like prequels because I know what's going to happen. So that's kind of where this was. Decent. Just not my thing so much. Finally, I read The Border by Robert McCammon. I've been slowly going back through and reading his stuff, kind of like Stephen King is. He is very wordy, and his books are extremely long, so I have to kind of space them out. Otherwise, I'll read 5 books a year. But this one, I don't know if this is my favorite of his, but it's up there. His writing it feels very fast-paced in this. I want to say this book's probably 500 pages, but I flew through it in a couple days. It takes place after an alien invasion where 2 separate civilizations of aliens are having a war with each other on Earth. and Earth is just completely decimated. And it starts with a boy waking up with bruises all over his body and bleeding, and he doesn't know how he got there, what his name is, anything, and he meets up with some survivors, and it turns out he has some special abilities that are starting to manifest the longer he's kind of awake from whatever happened to him. So it's kind of them, the survivors, teaming up with him, trying to figure out who he is, whatever, and he kind of has a mission he has to go on, and it's following the survivors go through that. And the way he did the alien civilizations were really cool. One was kind of an organic thing. Another was a tech-heavy civilization. And it was really great. My biggest issue is there was a really hardcore case of Deus Ex Machina at the end that I won't go into, but that's a kind of thing that bothers me a little bit. But otherwise, I love this book. I thought it was great. I thought it was paced well. And Robert McCammon is one hell of a writer. So I am done.
Quick question before I go into mine. Did you see this season of Westworld?
I have not finished it yet. I think I have 2 episodes left. So I've been trying to stay off the internet hardcore. Did you finish it?
I watched the season finale. I finished it last night. So, but when you're done, we'll talk about it.
I'll be ready next week.
Okay. All right. First of all, because of last week's Bad Ben, the Mandela Effect, I finally watched the Making of the Bad Ben trilogy, the little half-hour short documentary that that Nigel Bach made. And I got to tell you something. I went in thinking I was going to get a kick out of this, and I'm actually really, really glad I watched this thing.
Why is that?
Because when you watch Bad Ben the first time, you're just expecting a Hollywood movie. You're like, oh, it's another movie on Amazon Prime. You turn it on, and then you're like, what the hell is this? Then you're like, oh, it's like this wacky guy. It's kind of a goofy little movie. Then Steelmanville Road came, and you're like, what is this? But it felt really, really low budget, but you didn't really know what was going on behind the scenes. That was, though, where by the third one, you kind of figured out, like, okay, there's like this little troupe led by this guy, and he was doing other side stuff. When you watch this and you just see, like, this is just his independent filmmaker showing you the tricks he uses on his computer and the fun endeavor and what you can do with a laptop, a camera, and some motivation is actually pretty cool. And so it makes you kind of look back at the whole trilogy as more like watching something your friend made and going, that's really great for for $300 or whatever it cost you to do it. It's pretty clever, some of the things they did. So it was a very, very entertaining 30 minutes.
I have a feeling $300 was the cost of the GoPro he used to film it.
Yeah, right. Very, very glad. And in retrospect, I think it makes you like the Bad Ben stuff more, because now you're like, oh my God, that's pretty. Some of the stuff you're like, yeah, I knew that's how they did it, and other things like, oh wow, that's a little more ambitious than I thought that they could do. So pretty cool.
You know, the thing I liked the most from that, and it's something that endeared me to him a little more, was he said, I think he was talking about the first one, that he meant for it to be a straight up horror movie, and that people found it hilarious. And just the fact that he admitted to that must have been tough. I mean, if you're trying to make something scary and people are laughing at it, that's got to be hard to stomach. And that he then tried to make the next movie even scarier, and people didn't like it, so he pivoted and went more into comedy. And I think that's good, that the guy's able to roll with the punches like that.
And he got naked. I mean, he didn't just pivot.
He got very naked in the third one.
He got full frontal.
Yeah, so I enjoyed that too. Was it like 30 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, it's real quick.
Yeah, totally worth it.
Okay. So I took the bullet for the team, and I went and saw Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom in the theater this weekend, which there's a very interesting review of this by Tim Meyer on our site. And Tim was not so pleased with it, but had some good and he had pros and cons to the whole thing.
I think he gave it a 4 out of 10. So
he gave it a 4 out of 10, but then he said, some good things about it amongst the bad. Jurassic Park clearly means more to him than it does to me. I love the first Jurassic Park movie. The next two I saw them once, and then if they're on TV, I might watch 5 minutes. But didn't care. The Jurassic World, saw it in the theater and thought, oh, they just remade Jurassic Park, but instead of, it's kind of like what I'd rather them do is, even if you're doing a remake, keep it in the universe.
Yep.
So
exactly, just like Star Wars did, and it worked.
Yeah, so that you don't have to just be like, oh, and you don't compare it, even though really beat for beat, it's the same damn movie. And that's, our culture just likes that now. When something comes out, they're like, oh yeah, like it's just like the old one. You're like, no, it's got the spirit of it, but do something different. This movie, to me, was the classic word, meh.
Oh, that's the kiss of death for me.
This is just another dinosaur movie with Chris Pratt. So it's fun in spots. You go there and you'll be entertained the whole time. The movie has the worst villains probably ever in a movie. A lot of dumb things happen. A lot of zany, somebody's up here and they fall and almost get bit, but then this happens and that close call, Spielbergian, Raiders of the Lost Ark type slapstick action happens.
Is the story as bad as it looked in the trailer?
The story is there to set up another movie.
Oh, God damn
it. And Goldblum's in it for like 2 minutes.
What? Are you kidding me? I thought he was going to be a significant character.
Nope.
Oh.
This is no Thor Ragnarok. If he had been dressed in his Thor Ragnarok outfit, that would have made this even better. It's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
So, like, it's not that I hated it. It's just kind of, you watched it. It's the disposable summer entertainment that the more I think about it, the dumber I'll think it is. And then if it's on TV, I'll watch like 5 minutes, then flip to something else and come back. But there's no great like dinosaur fight between two dinosaurs or anything like that. There's no real memorable scene. And you talk about the whole Ex Machina thing. There's a lot of we're trapped and something saves the day. And a lot of it we've seen before.
It's got to be the T-Rex, because the goddamn T-Rex always saves the day.
Yes, well, the T-Rex saves like the day like 80 times in this movie. If you have a drinking game in that, you'd be drunk.
You're really selling it for me.
So here's the thing: there's some dark stuff that happens in this movie that if you brought like an 8-year-old to see this movie, it's pretty bloodless, but there's still like people and animals dying. There's one that I'm like, I don't know if this is really good for little kids. Me as a little kid, I wouldn't have blinked, but whatever. Ted Levine is the villain, and he's the same exact villain as like any other one of these. Like, he's the hunter guy.
Is he awesome just because he's Ted Levine?
That was the great thing, because it was so funny, because I was with my nephew and his immediate thought was, hey, it's Stottlemyre from Monk. Whereas mine was, oh, it's Buffalo Bill and Stottlemyre from Monk.
Nice. Okay.
Also in The Mangler.
Was he? Oh, God, that movie's so bad.
So,
dude, don't ever. You're going to give me nightmares.
I would not recommend this movie, but I would if you're just looking for something to go see and you just like, the person who Jurassic Park means a lot to will probably take this worse than John C. Public, who's just like, I need to take the kids somewhere and see something. Okay, there was dinosaurs and hot lava and stuff like that. But it's just disposable, forgettable. Yeah, that was okay. What's next?
Is it a wait for Netflix or just skip?
I would wait for Netflix. Look, if you're having people over and you want to watch a new release, it's fine. If you're a discerning horror fan and you're wanting anything more than a popcorn movie, go somewhere else. But if you're just looking for something light and fun with a group of friends over, it's fine. It's colorful. It's action. So, but for us, that first Jurassic Park is so special and so great. And
It's such an amazing film.
there's star power here. Chris Pratt is Chris Pratt, so you'll like him if you like Chris Pratt. He's not Star Lord in this; he's a little more serious. So, but again, if I had not seen this in the theater and I saw it on cable, it would have been fine. I did not see it in IMAX or anything like that. I just like I don't regret that I went and saw it, but I didn't come home. So that's almost like, yeah, you're right. Like Matt may be the worst because a strong opinion either way.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, okay, what's next?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that this was a case where the trailer actually did represent the film. So, because I saw that first trailer, and I just wanted nothing to do with this movie. So, it's interesting.
Then don't. You that trailer is exactly what the movie is, with some dumber stuff that they haven't shown you yet.
Okay, all right.
Like, there's nothing that tops what you see. There might be one or two things, but there's a lot of dumber things. And I'm telling you, the worst villains in like movie history.
See, now I want to see it and compare them to the villains in Rampage, because in Rampage they were really bad too. So I'm curious.
Okay. I'll just do one more and then we can get to Pinhead. I saw this found footage movie. I referenced it last week. It's on Prime now. It's a low budget found footage movie about vampires called Living Among Us. There's a few familiar faces in it, and I can't remember their names now, but when you see these guys, I think one was the father in Home Alone, which the guy may have just passed away.
Oh, geez. I thought I saw, was William Sadler in it?
William Sadler is in it. And then there's a guy in it who's in other stuff, but he looks like the guy who's in Haven and Backcountry, Eric Balfour, but it's not Eric Balfour. He's like the poor man's Eric Balfour.
Okay.
Which is probably the first time anybody's ever said that. Eric Balfour's like, yes!
I think Eric Balfour's the poor man's Eric Balfour.
Yeah. Anyway, this is one of those, thank God it was on Prime. Because when we rate movies, like there has to be a rating for like bad movies that you enjoy watching.
So bad it's good rating.
Yeah, like you're like Humanoids from the Deep is like a cheesy, poorly like bad movie that is awesome. You know what I mean? Like this is not that like that level of good, like schlocky, but it's funny. Like it does every stupid thing that a found footage movie does, where it says something at the beginning and then pays off, and then there's a guy who it's like the person who has to explain the joke. Like, oh my God, it's just like we said earlier.
Oh God. All right.
And there's a lot of like, it's the classic found footage setting up a gag visual thing or you know, the fun house scare. So again, like if you spent $1 renting this, I would say no, but it's on Prime. So if you're just looking for something, you know, turn off your brain and watch. It's the vampire found footage movie. It is so low budget, it's laughable. So
how the hell did they get William Sadler then? I mean, I'm sure he's not, you know, pulling a huge fee, but still, he's a name.
And it's so funny because basically this news crew gets to get like vampires are like out in the world, and they want to coexist with humans, so they invite this news crew to come to their home and film. And naturally, like they're like, you can't go in here and you can't do that. And then they've got some hidden cameras, so they catch conversations that like tell everything. And you're like, what? Why would they happen to have that conversation on the night where they have people in the other room? Like, it's that kind of stuff. But again, I watched it. I was like, that was kind of funny. Like, so if you're looking for a stupid movie to watch one night, pop it in. But don't get it on Prime or something like that. Don't.
I just added it to my watch list, so
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to checking it out. And the guy you were trying to think of, John Hurd, is the name.
Okay, so why don't we get to our main feature, Hellraiser.
scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
So before we jump into this, I did want to say something I just saw in the chat. And for those of you who listen to the podcast, which is 95% of you, if you ever get a chance on a Tuesday night to come in here and watch it live and get in the chat, sometimes some things happen that are pretty funny. And this is one of those instances. They have been talking about dicks in movies for the last 10 or 15 minutes in the chat about which movies have full frontal male nudity and just listing them. And then are going into the pros and cons of dicks in general and in movies. And it's freaking hilarious. You guys crack me up.
Did Kevin Bacon's in Wild Things get mentioned?
Oh, there you go. Kevin Bacon and Wild Things. I just mentioned Revenge, which had Dong for about the last 20 minutes. So,
and also Creep 2, full Duplass.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's
you ever see
long
Hall Pass?
And uncomfortable. Hall Pass.
Hall Pass with Owen Wilson and.
I don't think I did.
Oh my God! There's a scene where he like passes out in like a sauna, and when he comes to, these two naked guys are reviving him, and then one's got his head in his lap, and the other's down, and one is very well endowed, and the other one is tiny. It is hilarious.
Well, I'm glad that the chat now has us talking about dicks and films.
Yes.
So congratulations, guys.
All righty. What year was Hellraiser?
1987.
87. 87. This is a classic movie because every horror director, writer is looking to make the next Frankenstein, Dracula, Jason, Freddy, that character that sticks. And Barker hit gold with the lead Cenobite Pinhead.
Without ever even naming him in the movie.
Without even naming him. He was so memorable looking that it caught on. And even people who've never seen Hellraiser will go, oh, there's Hellraiser. What is your experience with the movie Hellraiser?
I first saw this, I must have been in maybe 8th or 9th grade. Actually, my old high school buddy, I saw him in the chat earlier. He just told me about these movies, Hellraiser, and how great they were, and sat me down, and we watched, I want to say, the first two, and they screwed me up, man. Those movies were so freaking intense, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen. And I watched a lot of horror movies at that point, but they're so different and so visceral. And just sitting and watching it on a crummy VHS tape on a shitty tube TV, sitting 3 feet from it, it was an intense experience. And I think I watched it in the middle of the day, even. And I don't know, I loved them so much that as they kept making them, when I went into college, they were still making those really horrible direct-to-video ones. I watched all of them. Now, I have not seen the last two because I just can't bring myself to. But it was a great viewing experience for me the first time I saw it. What about you?
I saw the first one before any of the other sequels came out. I didn't see it in the theater, but I remember going to the video store and renting it. And actually, I think I was in college, and I had just met this guy who would go on to be one of my best friends in the world. And we went and rented a horror movie and went back and watched it, and it was Hellraiser. And he is not a horror movie guy, so he was like, what the hell is this?
Oh, God.
And I'm watching it going, oh, my God. This movie's awesome. A couple of things jumped out at me. I mean, you've got Pinhead on the box, but the first thing for me, I was like, oh, it's the bad guy from Dirty Harry. And who plays the father. And then,
yeah. God. Andrew Robinson? Is that
his name? Something like that. You'd think I would have this in front of me because it's the...
Andrew Robinson. Yep, got it.
And then, the Cenobites are in it very little. So they're not for me, it was like, yeah, there was them, but then there was that big monster and some over-the-top special effects. But it kind of cracked me up because it was almost like two movies. There was like this really creepy horror drama going on with this, skinless man in the attic murdering people with this woman Uncle Frank, all this stuff, and
Yeah,
all like
with his brother's wife, who he's
Yeah.
had sex with multiple times.
and then these Cenobite children. I remember I loving I was big on special effects, Savini and all those guys. And back then you were like, oh my god, did you see the fish hooks going into that guy? It was amazing. So it blew off. Then it kind of, when it got really special effecty at the end, it was sort of the flavor of the times. So it wasn't quite as, like, when you watch it now and you're like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. You're just sort of. So I always think to myself, you've got to put yourself back in 1987
Right.
mindset when you watch these special effects. But there's like that kind of bing ending, and I just remember thinking to myself, oh my god, this really is sort of living up to the hype I had heard about it. And so I was like, awesome, welcome to the club, Hellraiser. And I saw the second and third one, and then after that I saw them here and there, but I really
Don't.
they were hard
so
to
bad.
I'd see part of. I mean, I remember the third one was on like cable all the time, so I saw it a million times.
I hate the third one. I hate that one probably, and it's a better movie than the rest that came after it. But what they did to Pinhead, turning him into just a generic slasher, and the Cenobite with the CDs in his head and the camera for that shit just ruined Hellraiser for me. So I hated that. But you mentioned the two movies kind of going on in this. Oh, by the way, I did want to mention again in the chat, they're now questioning, what does Pinhead's dong look like? And it looks like my brother, who's a genius and a gentleman, says it must have a Prince Albert. So there you go. Our listeners, ladies and gentlemen. The two things going on in the movie that I found really interesting were the whole thing with hell, which, as you were kind of alluding to, is basically in the background. Pinhead is in this for what, 3 minutes, 4 minutes? That's it. He doesn't show up. He doesn't have a name. There's zero backstory. Where did he come from? How did this happen?
It's one of like four.
Yeah, they're all very well done, but that's really not the biggest gist of this movie. It's really the drama that's happening. And watching it again this time, which, by the way, this is the first time I saw it in HD, so I'm going to definitely bring up a lot of the effects, good and bad. But it was, to me, this was a movie about obsession, because Frank was obsessed with finding something beyond human interaction, beyond sex and drugs and rock and roll and the whole thing. He was obsessed with going further and further and further. And Julia, the wife, is obsessed with Frank. And everyone in this who is obsessed has really terrible things happen to them. And it's I kind of took the movie as what obsession will do to you in the long run. So I thought that was kind of a really interesting thing Clive Barker had going on there. And I dug it. I love it.
Well, I have not read anything that Barker wrote, but you don't have to just look at some of his works, listen to him talk, look at drawings. The guy is a big S&M, sex and pain. Everything is erotic and horror, and oh, you're bleeding and it feels good. Like
twisted stuff.
Yeah. This movie does a really good job of kind of touching on that, but not turning into like a porno movie. Like,
yeah.
Like you get just enough of it. I have not seen this movie in a really, really long time. I was really happy. I just watched the documentary Leviathan, so I was really keyed up to watch this again. Man, I forgot what's the woman's name in this?
Julia.
Yeah, Julia. She is awesome. She's just a menacing bitch.
She looks intense. Like she should be running a boardroom. Very intense.
And I remember when first time I saw it, because I kept expecting like Cenobites to be showing up like Freddy Krueger and killing people. And instead it's like this woman luring men into their house and killing them for Frank. My favorite line of the whole thing is like, all I care about is new skin.
Right.
And the way Uncle Frank's overtones at his niece,
Mm-hmm.
That was nice and wrong.
Oh God, what was her name in this? Shoot, I'll find it up. Yeah, but you get the feeling that Frank has no boundaries. So his brother's wife, his niece, his blood niece, doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He'll go after
And
all of
another
them.
thing I kind of forgot: both female performances are really good. The lead girl in this, the daughter,
Ashley Lawrence, who plays Kirsty.
yeah, she's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's a cut above most of the originals in these horror series we see. The acting in this is really solid.
And I mean, man, I forgot like the ending of this movie. And I just saw the Leviathan, so I was reminded of a bunch of things, but there was still just things like, oh, I thought that happened earlier in the movie. I forgot that happened. And so, number one, it was just fun to go back and see it put together. Then number two, seeing it on a good TV in high def, I appreciated the special effects, and at times I laughed at the special effects.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. So anytime the hooks went into the skin, it looked god awful. The skin was paper thin, and it just looked bad. But the scene where the brother gets blood on the floor, and that's what resurrects Frank, is just awesome. The way they have his body recompositing, or however you want to say it. There are a couple scenes that they obviously did, reverse photography on, but it still looked great. And all the goo and grue and nasty shit all over the skeleton and the brain stem and everything. I loved that sequence.
And look, in 1987, this was what guys like Hunter and I, who were like the prime people that they were making this movie for, we were coming off of Dawn of the Dead and that kind of stuff, and now you had the Fright Nights and this and the a lot of over the top special effects movies were slimy and backwards photography and stuff like that. You couldn't get enough of this, so you were just like, well, you saw a preview and you're like, oh, that's going to be over the top gore. We got to go see that. And so, and it was also, you accepted, we were coming off of Sinbad and Clash of the Titans and things like that. So we were used to stop motion and, oh yeah, that's a special effect, but it's really cool. Whereas almost like in the age of CG now, it's almost like you don't accept it as much when it's a bad special effect.
Right. That scene would have been something where they would have augmented it with CG. You still do a lot of it, the real way with models and things. But I did want to mention one of my favorite effects is Frank's skinless suit. It looks incredible the entire movie. It just looks like a man without skin.
Yes, and that was the thing. It was like Frank without skin is like scarier than any of the Cenobites.
It's horrifying. At one point, when she takes his hand and touches her lips with his skinless finger, oh God, what are you doing?
And that's where, like, at one point she's just like, "Oh yeah," it starts like sucking on his fingers.
Oh God, it's the worst.
And now, so the father, who later on Frank puts on his skin, that actor does a great job of turning from the father into being Frank with the skin on.
Yep.
And one of the funniest scenes in the whole movie is it's supposed to be really tense and scary. The daughter comes home, thinks she's talking to her father, but it's really Frank. But he's got like this big bloody seam. And
His whole
she never
hairline
once
is
is like,
nasty.
she never is like, Dad, oh my God, Dad, you're bleeding. Like, if my father cuts himself shaving and I walk in the house, first thing we're like, what happened?
Yeah, I always wondered because he's describing how he basically killed Frank, is what he's saying. So I always wondered, is she assuming just in the process he got completely covered in blood and gore, or
yeah,
like what's happening? Because she is very okay with this.
Come to Daddy.
That is my favorite line in all of these series. And so the guy Frank, when he says the line, it's creepy. But when Andrew Robinson says it, the father, at the end, he has this perfect inflection. It's like, come to Daddy. And it's like so weird and creepy. Oh, it's nasty.
So the line Jesus wept?
Yep.
In the documentary, he ad-libbed that. He was supposed to say something else. Like, I think you're supposed to say something like "Go to hell," and it said he said that, and like the director like just lost it. Like, yes, keep that.
It's perfect. It makes no sense, but it's perfect.
Right. So that guy, not only was he the bad guy in Dirty Harry, but he was in a Liberace biopic.
Really?
Like, way before Michael Douglas ever played Liberace. He played Liberace and was awesome.
Do you remember the name of that? I don't think I've seen that one.
I don't know. It's
that's
probably called Liberace.
That's a deep one there. He was the detective in Cobra who was always yelling at Marion Cobretti, telling him how off the rails he was.
Nice.
He's a good actor. He's legitimately a good actor. They did a good job casting him in this.
When you see the documentary, you're like, ooh, he got old.
Oh, he's in it? I need to go check it out.
The other thing is I would not defeat the Cenobites because I never in my life have come close to solving a Rubik's Cube. So as far as that puzzle box goes, I would probably...
Well, yeah, they're running their finger along it and nothing's happening, but somehow they know that that's unlocking it. You know, there's all kinds of things like that, which is something else I find incredibly well done with this movie is the Pandora's box, basically, that is the key to this whole thing. And it's just a puzzle box, and when you open it, all the horrors of hell come out. This is such a genius idea, and it works so well. The design of it's perfect. I actually have one up over there, just as a paperweight for my desk. I love it. Great design.
Yeah. Again, they found that iconic thing because you see that box, you know, Hellraiser, and it opens up. The movie's really kind of fumbled with a great concept. It's almost like there's too much with the Cenobites now.
Oh yeah,
where you could almost, you know, downplay them and play upon more of the, you know, like you were saying, obsession. What are you could do 7 movies with the 7 deadly sins around that box. You know, what one's lust, one's envy.
You've already put more thought into the movies than any of the sequels except the second one.
I'm gonna watch the second one soon because it's been a really long time since.
I really, really enjoy that movie. It might be a decent one to do on here. It's probably the best sequel in any of these horror series. Way better than Friday the 13th or goddamn Nightmare on Elm Street 2. You know,
Nobody was more sad about that than I was because I loved the first one so much. I saw that, I was like, what the hell have they done? Thank God Dream Warriors brought them back.
Yeah, the second one, I actually know quite a few people who like the second one better than the first one. I think because it's so crazy and it's way more violent, disturbingly violent at times. So that would probably be a good one to do here.
Is the main girl in the second one?
Julia, yes. Julia is the main villain of the second one.
Is Kirsty in it?
Yes. So
it's been a billion years since I've seen that one. I don't remember.
I wonder if
they're all kind of blurry.
I guess we should say this movie's on Shudder, so anyone who has a subscription, you can just check it out. I don't know about 2. I'll have to go look.
So this is also on Prime. No, it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Because I had the option. And so I chose Shudder because I was like, I'm gonna watch it on Shudder because I want to get my money's worth.
Is Shudder where you saw the documentary? I think it is, right?
Yes. So far, I can only find part 1 of the documentary on Shudder. I don't know if part 2 is there, and it's just not showing me the thumbnail.
Okay.
I have to say, I have an awesome Pinhead bobblehead doll somewhere. Hunter's met the guy. What's his name? Doug Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen him at Chiller. I've walked by. I should probably go get a picture with him or something.
He's probably getting up there by now, right? This movie's 31 years old.
And that's why I wish Hunter was on this show today because he'd have all stories about, oh, yeah, I was at the bar with him.
I think he got drunk with Doug Bradley at one of these cons before. It wouldn't surprise me. There are a few things in this movie that bothered me in watching it again, and they're things that have always bothered me. One is the demon homeless guy throughout. There is just no purpose in that guy being in the movie. They could have just cut him out and it would not have been as weird. And that effect at the end with the demon flying from the fire is so bad. So bad. They should have just cut that shit out.
That's not Clive Barker, is it?
What?
The guy?
I don't think so. He looked familiar though, right?
He did look familiar. He's the way to get the box to the next, to the next person.
So was he the guy in India or whatever giving the box? Is that all the
Well,
same?
I don't know. I was looking and it didn't look like it was the same guy.
The derelict is played by Frank Baker. No idea who that is.
Frank Baker.
The classic Frank Baker. So that I never cared for, and some of the effects they shouldn't have done what they did, particularly at the end when she's putting the puzzle box back together and yellow lightning shit is shooting out of it and killing Cenobites. It just looks so bad, and I thought it looked bad way back when I saw it. That was terrible.
Yes, and then actually in the documentary, it's cool because that monster that runs down the hallway, I think they call it the engineer. The guys who did the special effects are talking, and they'll like point out like how they did it and flaws in it and things like that. Like, oh, you can see the guy running behind it in this scene and stuff. That that monster doesn't hold up too well.
I liked the monster when it was in the hospital chasing her. You don't see much of it. She's not interacting with it. It works. They kept it in the shadows. The end, when she's fumbling around with it, trying to get the box, that just does not work at all. It's really bad.
And it kind of doesn't make any sense as to, well, if I just move the box, they blow up. It was almost like, you need that for a big grand finale. But really, like, there should have been something like, okay, I opened the box, even though it was a mistake. They're coming for me. Was there a way that she could trick them into closing it or something? Or
or they take her and the boyfriend then goes on a quest in the second one to find out what happened and brings her back.
I'm sure they didn't know there was going to be a sequel at that point.
But whoever did the sequel did a really good job. So towards the end, when Frank stabs Julia and then absorbs her, and you think he kills her right there, Kirsty finds her later on the bed holding the box, and her face is peeled off. So she had gotten up and found the box and had opened it, and that is why in the second one she is retrieved from hell instead of Frank, because she opened the box and they took her away as well. So in the second,
I was wondering that because she was like dead on the stairs, shriveled up. And then later, I was like, "Wait, was that?"
She hadn't completely died yet, yeah. So she went and opened the box. So that's a nice touch. I don't think Barker wrote the second one. I don't know if it was the guy who directed. I think it was Tony Randall directed it. That's been a while.
Well, it's a whole. Was there a deleted scene or something? Because
I have no idea.
You don't see her do that.
No. I don't know if that was supposed to be in there or not. But you saying about it being deleted is one thing that bothered me on the DVD release I had in college, and it bothered me seeing it here in HD. The VHS copy my buddy had in high school, when he says Jesus wept and then he's pulled apart and he just explodes.
Mm-hmm.
So in this, you just kind of see right after the explosion, right? You see his parts kind of flying everywhere. You don't actually see him whole and then pulled apart.
Yeah.
And in the version I watched in high school, you saw the whole thing. It looks like there's 10 frames missing. And
they're cut.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. I don't know why. I don't know if that was an MPAA thing, if the footage was damaged somehow, but that was such a great effect, and we only see a tiny little bit of it now. Sucks.
Cool. Well, listen, this is if you haven't seen Hellraiser, you gotta get on the ball. It's one of the best '80s horror movies and one of the best. And again, I think you have to take these when you watch Universal or Hammer movies. You put yourself in the mindset of the time, the budgets, the special effects, and you get a kick out of these things. Same thing with '80s, and this is like the epitome of the. Oh yeah, you've got a good movie in here, and then we've got kind of.
it helps that in the 80s they started really figuring out the pacing of horror movies better. A lot of times in the 70s, there's big lulls, and this movie doesn't really have a lot of those. Maybe a little bit with Kirsty and the hospital stuff, but not even too long. It works well.
No, there's a really just creepy vibe to this whole thing, and a great cast of characters, so that every time you're with characters, especially that damn Julie, my God.
She was a good-looking girl.
She's just a evil. She looked like a Benny Hill woman.
The freaking Bride of Frankenstein hair she had in the middle was beautiful. Before we get out of here, where would you rank this movie in the Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street first movies? Not the series, just the first one.
It's funny. I was thinking about something about that. I was like, wow, all these series have like one or two crown gems, and then there's a mixed bag. Like Halloween 1, one of the greatest movies ever, and then a lot of crap sequels. Nightmare on Elm Street, you got like 1, 3, Friday the 13th, pick a few.
1 and 6. The rest, Friday the 13th probably is the best series as a whole, but not the best first movie.
Nothing as strong as
right.
There's not one movie that is kind of better than any of the.
I know you're a big Nightmare on Elm Street guy.
I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and I love Nightmare on Elm Street 3. The rest of them, I can, whatever. I love Freddy as a character, right. But those are the two movies I would say. The rest of them, who cares? They're on. Watch them, but the Freddy concept, you don't need 8 movies about him,
right?
But the great thing about Freddy was, again, to be there when they were released. Freddy movies were an event because you went there because they were funny. So you wanted to see people get killed with one-liners.
Right.
So there was a whole different vibe to that. I mean, the theater would cheer and things like that. So if once they were getting worse, you're like, come on, you got to get back to the right. Dream Warriors magic.
But you kept going because you were waiting for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hellraiser, jeez. It's hard to rank these guys.
While you're thinking about it, I'll give you mine because I'm sure this dead air sounds fantastic. I think Halloween is number 1. The first Halloween is just untouchable.
I agree with that.
It's unbelievable. Then the question for me is A Nightmare on Elm Street or Hellraiser. I really have them neck and neck, and I think I prefer Hellraiser's idea. I love the whole hell and the skinless man and all this crazy shit that's not explained. But I think A Nightmare on Elm Street is probably a little better of a movie. But the cons... So 2 and 3, it depends on the day you catch me where I would put them. And I put Friday the 13th last. Even though I like the first one, of the 4, it's probably the weakest.
I would put Nightmare on Elm Street ahead of this because I think it is a better movie and there are more memorable scenes in that movie. That like the body bag,
sure,
and
Johnny Depp's
don't
death.
Run in the Hall. Johnny Depp. There's so many great things. There's a kind of bad special effect at the end, but Freddy was such a new thing then that that movie really stands up.
It does.
And with Hellraiser, it's a tremendous movie. Maybe it's Nightmare on Elm Street has more watchability. Like I'll watch that more often. Hellraiser is something go back to occasionally and enjoy, but
it's so intense at times. It's like I don't want to watch it over and over and over and over.
And the ending, really, I mean, once you get the giant monster and the Cenobite, that the finale kind of doesn't live up to
the budget hurt this movie a lot. I just looked at it was $1 million, which is nothing.
So, and look, Friday the 13th is a whole different vibe because that's just your classic, teens getting killed by a slasher.
Yep, very run-of-the-mill slasher, but good, great ending, which helps. So, all right, I think we're pretty much in agreement then.
Yeah.
Ready to get out of here?
I'm ready to get out of here. So what's the next week movie is The Endless?
The Endless, which is from the directors who did Spring, Resolution. Shoot, what was their other one? I don't know. I'll look it up while you.
Is it a pay-per-view?
I think it's probably a rental right now. Yeah.
Is it The Endless or just Endless?
I think it's The Endless, but I'll look it up here in a second. And my wife just came downstairs with my Pinhead mask on. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this.
Nice.
Yeah, I got that way back in the day. I still scare the neighborhood kids with it.
You nailed it.
Said you nailed it. So yeah, they did Resolution, Spring, and The Endless. So these are some great.
Spring is great.
Yeah, some great horror filmmakers, and this is supposed to be. So far, I've heard it's their best one yet. So we'll find out.
All right, everybody, don't forget to share. Maybe give us a review on iTunes. Thanks for the love in the chat room, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate all the dick top.